There
Okay,
we go.
I'm going to start webinar and you're off.
Awesome. All right. I am curious to know, how are your cats?
Oh my God, they're so good. Okay, so full disclosure,
Yes.
my hand is like super dirty, if you can see that. I was taking a bunch of pictures for a cover reveal that's coming soon.
Oh, that's so
I know.
exciting.
And I was doing it on my patio. It involved dirt, which like is like okay, whatever. But yeah, so they had some outdoor time. They are thriving, living their best lives. Like, they have more outdoor time than I do as a person. So happy for them.
Oh, goodness. But I had to lock my cat out. Thankfully, I have an office now. I just moved yesterday, so all the bags in the background are books. I need to go buy another bookshelf. But he is very he likes the computer. He likes to just jump and just look at the camera.
Yeah.
He's made quite a few of my professors uncomfortable in the past.
Yeah. It's so self-aware, so like directly into your soul with the video. I completely understand. There's no doubt I could lock mine out, but I know that it would create more of a nuiance than
if they decide to make an appearance, that's all the more better.
it's all we want, really.
Absolutely. I think if I'm not mistaken, did you get to go to what's it called? Is it Y'all West? I don't know. I'm from Canada. I haven't gotten to go to any of these events before.
You're like your American things. No, I was at a Polycon this past weekend.
Oh, right. That's
in DC, which was super fun. It was really, really cool and an amazing turnout of it was weird because I was like flipping out as a reader over the authors that were there. And so I was like absolutely dying, like so excited. And then, so it was really neat too. And then to meet people that have read the books and stuff was super fun.
Oh, that's so great. I wish we had more of these bookish events in Canada. We do have some, but they're mostly in my area, we have a lot of Acadian French authors, which basically my first language is French. I am Acadian, right? It's to be expected in the area, but we don't have any of my favorite authors have never come to New Brunswick before. So I'm just when I get the chance to talk with literary agents or people in the industry, I'm like, come on, bring them over here,
Dude, I would love to. Truly, I love Canada so much. So sign me up.
And most events happen maybe in Toronto or Vancouver. So those events, I would buy a plane ticket to go because I'm again in New Brunswick, which is, in the Maritimes, we don't really have concerts with super famous people or famous authors or anything, but it's slowly starting to make its way here. So
I love it. No, I think I'm supposed to go to the New Brunswick area, not as an author, just as a person, in October. So
any recommendations,
please, I would love that.
If ever you happen to pass by a small town called Charlotte, that's my hometown. Charlotte, Charlo, and my mom owns a restaurant there. So we will gladly welcome you to Charlo if ever you happen to cross.
What kind of restaurant?
It's kind of there's a little bit of everything, primarily European cuisine, but she's been a chef for I don't know, I'm 20, it's been for over 20 years now, but she opened her restaurant 4 years ago now, and it's kind of like a family thing. She found the spot, it used to be a brewery, and my siblings and I helped her completely revamp the place, and so now it's this super nice restaurant with a nice patio right by the ocean.
That's so cool. I love it. How amazing.
Very, very nice.
Did she cook you guys good meals, or was she I've been cooking all day, I'm not gonna deal with you?
Well, thankfully, she was a chef in a restaurant when I was 4, and then she decided to stop working and raise me because we had to move to Charlotte, and we live on a fish farm. That's another fun fact. But Yeah, it's in the middle of the woods. It's been a great childhood, but she stayed at home, and my siblings are all like over 10 years older than me, so I was kind of an only child, but with siblings living away.
Oh my gosh.
She always made such good food, even if it wasn't like anything fancy. Like we would have pizza on Fridays and like either pizza or homemade chicken wings, or there was always this one meal on Fridays.
No, I feel you so hard. Yeah, coming from like divorced parents too, like we would have like special days with each, but pizza day, I made sure it was like consistent with both of them. So like Wednesdays was pizza day with my dad, and then Fridays was pizza day with my
Oh,
mom.
pizza twice a week. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I really knew how to play the game for sure. So what are you studying at school?
I'm studying English. It's pretty fitting, isn't it?
Oh,
Uh,
that's
I
amazing.
I was meant to pursue history when I started university, and when it was a first year, I was going to do an honors in history and a minor in classic studies. And then I had my first history course, and I was like, you know what? I love history. I just don't like it in an academic setting.
Yeah.
And I started reading a lot when COVID happened, which I know a lot of people will relate to. But I realized how much I loved it. Like I've always been a huge reader, but then high school started, and there was so much like so many stereotypes about like, oh, you don't like to go out, you don't like to party, you're always reading, but that's really who I was. And because of that, I kind of detached from reading for a couple of years, and then COVID happened. And then I thought, what can I do? Like, what can I study to have books surrounding me? Like 24/7. And I thought, if I do something in English, then that's what my life is going to be. And then I started my social media platforms and got in touch with Fable, and then we talked about internships, and now I'm here, and I'm hoping that after I graduate I can work here for full
Oh
time.
my God, that would be so cool. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Fable seems like so amazing with how they're able to
So
connect people
fun.
together and everything. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so
It's
cool.
been it was so fun to see you react to like all the chapters, and given like your couple of like, especially when you brought up, this is something I want to talk about
Yeah.
afterwards, when you mentioned that it was supposed to be two different timelines,
Yeah.
and it didn't turn out to be two different timelines. That was so interesting. But
Yeah.
the way that you kind of sprinkled, their past within their present was so nice. And I was so excited to read it because I read A Brush with Love last year,
Yeah.
and it completely like life-changing. For the very first time that I felt understood by reading a book, right? Like there's a lot of books I've read that I relate to certain aspects, but it was the first time that I read a book that talks about anxiety and felt like, oh my God, okay, this has happened to me before, and it's normal. It happens to others, right? And it was so nice to see in the plus one too. There's a lot of
Jude has so much anxiety.
it's just like I've been able to control it a little bit better, but there's sometimes that it just like skyrockets, and it's so comforting to see that I'm not the only one. Even when people say you're not alone, sometimes it's just like hard to fully like, okay, yeah, I'm not alone.
But somebody will say you're not alone, but you feel alone. And that's like so much harder because it's like conceptually, like, yeah, other people deal with this. But then in the grand scheme of things, you're like, but I feel very lonely. So yeah, I completely understand. And like, yeah, I think I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed A Brush with Love too, because like I've been tagged in so many things recently where it's like, this was very obviously a debut.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh yeah.
to me, it will always hold a very special place in my heart. I'll say this, and then afterwards I will like properly start this off, since it is recorded, so people will to watch this.
Yeah.
But I saw someone post on social media. I think they'd gotten an ARC, and they posted the quote about the fungal systems underneath ground that you talked about.
Yeah.
And I had never related to something more in my life. And when I tell you, I got in my car, drove to the bookstore, immediately bought it, and started reading. And Actually, I had a forest ecofiction class this year, and we studied books about the forest and trees, and we studied those fungal systems, and we learned about how trees work and how they feel. And every time we talked about the fungal systems, I was like, oh, that's Harper and Dan.
That's so Harper Core right there. She's just a little fungus. Oh, that means so much to me. Yeah, I was so like, that was like the one thing that my biology degree gave me was that metaphor.
Oh, but it's such a great one. Honestly, it felt, it's all highlighted and drawings everywhere, and it's a very, very important quote to me. But anyway, I will start this off. First off, good evening, everyone. I'm Desiree, also known as Rainy Days Library on TikTok, Instagram, social media platforms. And thank you for watching this. And also thank you, Mazey, for just accepting to do this, as well as doing the pop in the club. It was so fun. I know a lot of members really enjoyed it. And so we read the +1 in the month of April because it was an April release. So I knew I just had to grasp the opportunity to read it. And where am I here? Okay. I'm reading like the list to follow.
Oh no, thinking is so hard. Like in this day and age, I'm completely lost in thought all the time.
Oh yeah, especially like, you know, moving, I'm just seeing like boxes and duct tape everywhere. But anyway, I will read a quick intro for Mazey. So Mazey Eddings is a neurodiverse author, dentist, and most importantly, stage mom to her cats. I hope they do make an appearance. If they don't, well, okay, I hope, you know, if I just see a little cat bobbing behind, that'll be great. But Yaya and Zadie, she can mostly be found reading romance novels under her weighted blanket. That's great. And asking her boyfriend, or should I say fiance?
Yeah, he's been upgraded, but I'm not going to change it in my bio. I'm like, ooh,
boyfriend
bro.
to bring her snacks. I do the absolute same thing. That is what they're there for. And she's made it her personal mission in life to destigmatize mental health issues and write love stories for every brain. With roots in Ohio and Philadelphia, she now calls Asheville, North Carolina home. She's the author of A Brush with Love and Lizzie Blake's Best Mistake, as well as the +1. So we have a couple questions set out here, and then I also have oh my goodness. Oh, I love cats so much.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I should try to bring Bowie in here. Maybe he would like.
You should. I would love that.
So we have a few basic questions, and then I had asked questions on my social media platform. So we're gonna go through this and just have some fun chatting. But obviously, a lot of the members in the book club really enjoyed reading the +1, myself included. It is definitely at the top 10 reads so far this year. And for some of our newer members who might not be familiar with your works, so how would you describe the books that you write? And is there like a specific community that you write for?
Yeah, so my book, so the 3 books that are out are like part of an interconnected story of a friend group, but each one can be read individually. And I honestly write romances and rom-coms for messy women in their mid to late 20s who are really just trying to get by the best that they can. And yeah, I you know, I'm not sure that well, I know for a fact I didn't originally set out to write you know, 3 books that have such a heavy focus on mental illness or neurodiversity, because Lizzie has ADHD, right? But it ended up that way, one, because I had a publishing team that was like so good to me and so willing to allow me to explore these topics. And then 2, I deal with all of these things in my day-to-day life. And so it's almost harder writing outside of that perspective than it is within it. And so again, I feel very lucky that I had the chance to write books that explore and like hit those heavier topics. And so, yeah, I joke, I was like, my fan base is mentally ill because I'm right there with them. I'm like,
Oh, oh yeah, I feel that I'm part of the club.
yeah, I mean, I've been on Prozac since I was like 12, 13. So I'm like, my girls, like, let's go, let's ride. But no, and as somebody that has ADHD and autism, like I also dive deep into neurodiversity and things like that. But yeah, and so again, not to beat a dead horse, but I feel so lucky to write about these topics that we don't see as often in genre fiction and romance in general.
It is so great. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's been your books have been a great help to me. And I know they've been a great help to a bunch of other people. I've had some members in the club that found your books through this club and were just like, you know what, I need to get the other two because I felt seen in this book. And I've read books before that talk about anxiety or mental health or all of those areas in life. And sometimes they just quickly skim over it. And you don't have that chance to really, like, as a reader, to submerge yourself into the story and see like, oh, I fully relate to that. Like for me, that's what happened in A Brush with Love. Like, for example, the panic attack in the bathroom. I have never related to something more in my entire life. And to have it, like all those details really help, like you get into the story even more. But as a reader, you also feel like, oh, okay, I feel seen, I feel understood. And that's one of my favorite aspects of your books. Honestly, that's one of the best parts.
Thank you. I appreciate that because like when writing it, so I started it in 2019. So it was like, it was pre-pandemic, right? But like I remember it's so funny that panic attack scene that's so poignant that Harper goes through. I remember writing that while I was babysitting, which is like such a like the kids were asleep. I was inducing myself into an anxiety attack. I was like, okay, like let's go, like let's see what happens here. But no, my big goal with writing that book was like, how can I make the physiological experience of anxiety like accessible to people that don't have to deal with it, right? And then that became my goal with everything in the other books too. But yeah, that specific scene sticks out to me too, because I was like, I remember just like being on the couch like writing so hard. I was like, it feels weird to be writing something and like getting paid, because that was the first time that had happened. I was like, but you know what? I'm gonna go for it anyway.
Oh, it's so great. And all the times that Jude in the +1, all the times, like if his fingers are starting to numb a little, or when he's getting too hot, or all of those symptoms. And for me, I go through all of those, and then it's just like I know, like, okay, if I start getting too hot, that's like the first thing. Right away, I need to cool down to stop it. If not, it's just gonna keep going. And you were able to see that with Jude. And even though, like, obviously I don't struggle from PTSD, but I do struggle with anxiety, which has those similar symptoms. And it was nice to be able to relate to him, even if it was not the same thing. I was still a lot of it was relatable.
Yeah, Jude was my sweet broken boy. I love him so much.
It was so great. I wish I had the book to show you all the tabs I put in there, but it's packed somewhere in the back.
Don't worry about it. Moving is traumatic. So like, honestly, you're fine. I'm not worried about it. But yeah,
it was so fun. It was so fun to read it on Fable too. Because we have a bunch of fun annotating features in the reader, and so we could have reactions and all of that. And I read it on Fable, but I transferred my annotations in the physical copy, and I recorded all of it because I do this on YouTube where I post videos of like, this is the view and you see me like putting the stuff in it. So I took the time to like make, highlight all straight and circle everything and matching the tabs to the cover. That's something I really like doing. So it's one of my, I I found new tabs. It was the first time I was using them, and so it's like my pride and joy.
You have to send the video to me if
Oh, absolutely. I will send it to you for sure. Yes. Oh, go for it. Go for it.
This is
Before you forget.
No, it's so off topic, but how do you take videos of you doing things with two hands? 'Cause, like,
I have what do you call that in English? A tripod. I have a tripod.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I have like two different tripods, one to put on my desk and then one to put on the floor. So like a high one.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Okay. I
yeah.
tried to make a video where I was like doing an annotation thing and I had like my phone like,
The
like
phone, yeah, that's what I used to do.
and I was like, I can't. I was like, I don't have the neck strength. I don't have like a long
Yeah, at first when I started my accounts, I would like stack stuff and try to put the phone on it. But then eventually I got one of those phone holders that you clamp on your desk and then it holds the phone. And then I eventually upgraded to like an actual vlogging camera that like I was able to afford with like saving my money from social media and like, okay, I'm gonna buy a camera. I'm gonna pursue social media as like an actual job. Let's see where this goes. And it
That's
paid
amazing. That is amazing. I love it. And insider tip too. So now I know.
off. It's great. Those phone stand clamps,
Yeah.
they're awesome.
Amazing.
Let me see. Next question. What inspired you to write the plus one? That is something I'm very curious about. And your books in general, like what
Yeah.
was there like a specific event or a person that drew you to creating the books or the characters or just
So the plus one, Indira like always spoke to me really, really loudly, as did Lizzie and Harper and Dan and like all my characters. But Indira, I don't know, she was like a hard nut to crack as I was working through the series and like trying to figure out what her story would be and what she was feeling and thinking and all of that. And for some reason, I just had this very deep sense that like her love story was going to involve somebody from her past and somebody that like she historically did not like or enjoy. And then, oh gosh, I guess, Jude honestly came to me. I wrote this book in like late 2020, right? So we were coming close to a year on the pandemic, and I was a healthcare worker at the time. I was a student. I was a dental student, so I was seeing patients under like huge precautions regarding COVID. But I was watching these stories and these videos of healthcare workers who were going through just really, really, I don't know if I can swear, but like tremendous shit, like,
yeah.
And I was so inspired and horrified and just really, really moved at what people were willing to do for other people and like how much of themselves they were willing to give away for other people. And it resonated with me emotionally, even though like I wasn't nearly at the level of so many people. And so I wanted to explore that with Jude and like what it's like to almost give all of yourself away to this profession and this thing that you think is where you'll find fulfillment. And yeah, it's funny, like I ended up having to almost entirely rewrite this book in like 4 weeks or so. Yeah, which was like so horrible. But Jude in the original iteration of the book was I had him working like with the US military, right? And so then I came into my own complicated feelings with the US military and everything that I won't go into, but that started coming up in a way that like I didn't feel equipped to tackle in the book. But Jude's like feelings around serving areas that have experienced, the trauma of war, the trauma of natural disaster, pandemics, or things like that was still there and still solid. And so I was able to carry that over. But yeah, I really was just kind of like fascinated with with medical burnout and like, that kind of, and then also this dynamic of having a person where it almost feels safe to dive back
just
into,
like
yeah, where it feels safe to dive back into hating them because that's what you know, or like, or disliking them or teasing them because it's like, it's as natural as breathing, right? When you grow up with somebody. So yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Honestly, it was so nice to see how Indira was his safe place, right? It's another thing that was very like relatable to me. There's sometimes this discomfort that comes with like having anxiety. You don't want to have anxiety attacks around people that you've just met or around certain people just because you feel like they won't fully understand or they won't know what to do, and them panicking is going to make you panic even more.
Yes.
And so to see how Indira just like first off, perfect couple, right? Like just she the way she knew what to do, it was just so comforting to see like, I'm gonna touch you now, or is it okay if I hug you, or is it okay if I hold your hand? Just seeing that she was asking for his consent, that was so great to see. Because I mean, yes, sometimes it's great that they just take the initiative and just like hug you, but sometimes like the panic attacks can vary, right? Like sometimes you want the physical touch, sometimes you just want like your space, but you still need someone with you. And it was so great to see that Indira really respected all of his boundaries. And that's something else, like throughout their entire relationship, how she was not giving up. No matter what was going on with him, she was not giving up. Like when they're at his parents' place and the little argument happens, and then he goes to open the door and she's already there. Just scream I let out. I was over the moon. And just the way that, I don't know, like there was no third act breakup, but there were still like the bumps in the road, but you made it very real to how they dealt with it. And it's really nice. Like, of course, it's nice to escape into a romance, just like forget everything, but it's also really nice to have that little bit of real life in there, and just that little bit of reality that you can connect to and relate to. So that was very, very nice.
I'm so glad you like that. Yeah, Indira is my little fighter. Like I would die for her. I love her so much. And I think that was what was so like almost disarming in writing her story, was like how she was so ready to go to bat for him and the people that she loves and like everything like that. And yeah, I it's weird because like, even though I technically wrote these characters, like they feel very I don't know, like I feel lucky to know them personally. Like they feel very outside of me, and like I'm along for the ride and telling their story and stuff like that. And so yeah, I loved Indira's fire and her fight and everything like that. And the biggest thing that I was like conscious of going through the draft and everything like that was I never wanted it to fall into the trope of like Indira fixes him, or she because like reading, so I love old school historical romance. Like
I too. I'm a big fan of those too.
yes, I eat that shit up. And one of the tropes is like the magic vagina where they have sex and everything's like fine, and like the scarred hero is saved and it's amazing, right? And so I was so conscious going into this book about the fact that I didn't want Indira to have to fix him, right? Because I never feel like it's a woman's job to fix a man. And so going through the book, like I think that was also something where I was like hesitant in like the very first draft, where then I had to rewrite it, and I just had to trust her to like dive into emotions where she needed to, but also to pull back where she needed to. But like, yeah, the big goal that I had with it was that Jude is going to experience his feelings, Indira is going to experience hers. They're going to support each other, hold each other up, but they're not going to automatically fix each other. And so I'm glad that you kind of felt that way going through it.
That's actually something I remember annotating. I think I wrote down something like I can't recall the exact words, but it was something along the lines of like they're both healing separately, but together at the same time, right? They're there to hold each other up, but they're both dealing with whatever they're dealing with, and they're healing from that as individuals, not one doing it for the other while having to, hold everything up on their own. It's 50-50. That was so great to see. And it was great to see also how you normalized therapy, right?
Yes.
I really love how does Indira say it again, like therapy twins or something like that, just because they have like the same appointments at the same time. I know there must be twins somewhere in there, but the way that she was so open about it and helping him be comfortable with like just going to therapy and just talking about it. And as someone who I come from a very, very small town, and so it happened a lot that people were very, very unopen to things.
Yes.
And so I started university with the concept of like, okay, going to therapy is like you need to have a really big problem to go there. And when I started struggling with anxiety, I considered like, should I go to therapy, right? Like, would it help? And I talked about it with my parents, and they were like, if you want to go, right? Like, we don't have anything to say anymore. We're going to support you no matter what. You're an adult, do whatever you want. But like it's expensive. And but thankfully, like I'm paying for insurance at university. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna see how it goes. I do have issues to talk through. That's their job. I'm gonna try it out. And it helps so much, right? Like just taking the time to sit down and talk with someone already helps so much. And then to know that they have professional opinions that they can share, that helps even more. And it was great to see how Indira also goes to therapy, even if it's that's her own profession. And it was so great to see how the way that she perceived herself when she was talking to her therapist, that was those sessions were really, really interesting. And I don't know, I really like that you normalized it and made it like it's a human thing to do. It's good for you. It's not something to be embarrassed about. And especially when Jude goes to talk to the board, just like the reactions that they had, that they were just like completely unbothered. I was writing in all caps, like, why are they like this? It's human, right? But
exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. I like I think I mentioned earlier, I've been on, like an anti-anxiety medication since I was 12 or 13. But also being autistic, I kind of assumed like everybody experienced this like I do, or like had these big, like all-consuming feelings and stuff like that. And so I would share with my classmates, like, oh yeah, I go to a psychiatrist, or like, I'm depressed, or all of these things. And they would look at me where they're like, you're not supposed to tell us that. And so I've never had this concept necessarily like that we're supposed to keep private our mental health struggles, or that we're supposed to like, very much internalize the fact that we're depressed or anxious or obsessing over something, or all these different things. And just because I don't have like a good concept of what's like socially acceptable in general. And so, like, I think that these books have been such a great way for me to almost relate to these characters, where they're going through therapy and they're open and honest about it too. Because even in my adult life, I struggle to find people that are like, yeah, I have like some fucked up shit that happened to me. Like, I need to talk to somebody with professional opinions about it. And I'm like, it's almost more disarming to me for somebody to be like, I don't go to therapy, because I'm like, wait, what? Like, you don't have trauma? Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, and so it felt very natural to like write about a character going through, sessions of therapy, and also from the sense of like Indira is a doctor, right? And so for her to have this sense that like she doesn't feel like fully emotionally equipped to take care of the patients that she deals with. Like that's a lot of trauma too for her to take on, like outside of what she experiences personally, even professionally. And so yeah, again, I was just like super excited to be able to write about this.
Definitely important. And talking about your characters, how do you create these complex individuals? Obviously, like in the first book, you have Harper who has anxiety, and then you have Lizzie who's got ADHD, and then you have Jude who's got PTSD and mental health struggles. And even though they're all somewhat similar, they're all very, very different. So how did you, like, what was your process to kind of write the characters?
Oh gosh, I honestly wish there was a process to it because that would make it easier to recreate. But I can almost like remember the exact moment that the friend group of Harper, Indira, Lizzie, and two popped into my head, and they were, I don't know, like the socially acceptable way to say that they were all like really chatty in my mind. And so, and they all had a story and like unique perspectives to share. And, looking back on like my life and everything, I think it's really telling, like, growing up or even in college or then eventually in graduate school, all of my friends were openly neurodivergent. They were openly queer, like all these things. And I was like, I'm an ally. And then it was like, I came to the realization and the diagnosis that like, one, I'm autistic, one, I'm like ADHD, and then personally I'm queer. And so I'm like, oh, it makes sense that these were the people I was attracted to in my life and like wanted to form these connections with and everything. And so, I think in a lot of ways, like it just, again, it wasn't like this full-throated intentional choice to write this trilogy on characters struggling with mental health, but more so that this was like reflective of the people that I knew and like the struggles that I've had and they've had and things like that. And I think that's what's so beautiful about fiction is that it allows the writer to kind of delve into our lived experiences and stuff, and like, not to like kind of go off track, but like even on, the queer aspect of it, like I wrote my YA debut comes out in August.
I'm so excited for it.
I love it. I love it so much. And it was like one of the most affirming experiences of my life to write about an ADHD heroine. She's 18, and then a hero who has autism. He's also 18. And they're messy and emotional, and they're teenagers, and they find so much joy and love in their experiences. But, one thing that I get tagged a lot in like negative reviews is that pretty much every side character is queer, right? And so I'm like, and they're like, it's just not believable that everybody's queer. And I look around me and I'm like, the only straight person that I'm like friends with is my own fiance. And so I'm like, I'm like, this is just reflective of what I experience as a person. And like as an autistic person, neurodivergent people are more likely to identify as like, LGBTQ community and blah, blah, blah. But, that's a very rambly answer to say. I just write about about the beauty and joy that I see in the people that I connect with around me. And so I was very lucky that these characters came to me as voicey and loud and demanding as they were, because it made writing their stories so much fun. But I didn't have to do, too much like digging to find out who they were.
That's so great. It's so great to think that they just kind of were themselves, right? They just kind of appeared out of your brain and then right onto the page. And I guess like the way that you write your books in general, but also the inner thoughts of your characters, and just like especially in the plus one, I just found like all the rambling in their brains it's so, I don't really know how to describe it, but it's very easy to read and follow, but it's also like you managed to make it very deep and important. And so that's like, was there some place that kind of started it, that developed your writing style, or how your writing style evolved or anything like that? Because I love how you incorporate your humor, which I know is a part of your personality. And I absolutely adore that you include that in there, because it's so great to have that little bit of lightness with the heaviness of mental health that goes through your novels. So was there any kind of Kickstarter to kind of bring all of that together?
Yeah, I would say so, in my like personal perspective too, some of like my funniest moments have happened when I'm at rock bottom, right? Like, where I'm like just and I also use therapy as like my personal stand-up hour where I'm like, I'm gonna like, make therapist Laura laugh and everything like that. But I think my goal has always been, even when I'm at my deepest, darkest, is to find something that brings me humor or joy, or that I can laugh about, because that allows me to connect with other people. And I try to bring that to my writing as well. And I really, really appreciate you saying that they feel easy to read, because I work so hard to make that the case. I want these books to be readable and something that can connect with a wide variety of people, so they can kind of I guess experience the various struggles or experiences of my characters and everything. But yeah, my writing process, like at its core, I'm not sure it could be more chaotic. I write out of order. um, I write in just like huge bursts, and then not for like days at a time and everything like that, where I think I try to like appease my neurodivergent brain, where I'm like, okay, this idea that popped into my head feels so yummy and exciting and delicious, and I'm gonna chase it as far as I can take it, regardless of what conversation I'm in the middle of, or what I need to actually be doing with my fiance, God bless him. There will be times where he's like, mid-sentence, and I'm like in the corner, like typing on my phone, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I had an idea and I need to chase it. And like, he lets that happen. And yeah, so it's just like, again, I wish I could have a writing process that was more uniform and like allowed me to replicate it, or like, no, like, this feeling's normal around this many words or whatever. But no, it's all chaos all the time. And I just try my best to hit my deadline.
Well, you know what? Just keep up with what you're doing, because it's working great. So even if it's all over the place, the end results are always perfect. They're always great. And it's really, it's that part is also very relatable. Like I have not been diagnosed with ADHD. I have been, my brother is, and so it's been like, could I also have it? Because
Yep.
I keep like, obviously there's this stuff on TikTok of like, if you have this and this and this
Yeah.
and this, ADHD. But then like, that's a TikTok diagnosis. Should I really believe that? But
Yeah.
like the thing about
yeah.
one idea starting here, you need to chase it, and then another, and then you're talking about one thing and then switching to another, and it's just like all over the place, but at the same time somewhat organized chaos. But I do understand where you're coming from with that part. And but it's great that you do, like, when you get those ideas, you just right away you can chase them, and then you just need to play, like my brother said that yesterday, just play like Tetris with it, right? Like, puzzle. He was completely astonished at how many things I was able to fit inside of my small apartment into a 3-bedroom apartment. And that's where he said, like, you must have played Tetris like throughout all those years that you stayed there. But that's kind of like, that's how I see my brain, right? That's just an endless game of Tetris.
100%. Yeah. And it's very much like, I think giving yourself like the grace and the freedom to pursue something as far as it wants to go, because like I've learned that if you fight like a fun idea or a thought, even if it's not on what you're supposed to be working on, like if you chase it as far as it can go, it can either A, inspire what you're supposed to be working on, or B, be fodder and a baseline for something else that's like super exciting that you can chase. And so, yeah, I agree with your brother too about like the Tetris thing. It's like that is how it feels up there all the time.
Oh, that's great. I guess after that, there's a lot of people that were asking if you had any tips as a writer, or like being in the publishing industry, or like, and any tips or I guess experiences in this whole, thing, industry.
Yeah. Oh gosh. It sucks all the time. Like I just like, I guess like my biggest tip is like, if it feels like it hurts or it's hard or it's terrible, like that's a very universal experience. I think the one thing for me was I found an idea, and that came through a brush of love, where I was like passionate and like excited enough about it that it didn't matter how many no's I got. Like I was going to do what I could to put it out in the world, even if that meant self-publishing or things like that. And so to me, I guess it's like defining your boundaries of like what you're willing, like what extent you're willing to go to with a project or an idea or something like that, and then following it through. Because at the end of the day, once you reach that boundary of like, this is as far as I personally can take it, you have succeeded and you have like made it the most that you can, right? And so that's the big thing to me. And like, also I think it's important, and I'm still not great at this, but you have to understand too that like writing is this merging of art and consumerism. And so, you you like chase this beautiful idea that you have for so long, and then somebody figures out how to package it in like a palatable way for people to consume and take in and stuff, and they're not always compatible. And like just the creation in and of itself is a beautiful thing, and it's something to be so proud of. And so I guess those are my like big takeaways on the horrible process.
Well, they are pretty encouraging. Like, see, I'm not exactly like, I had fun writing a book last summer. Like, I didn't write the entire thing. I just had fun writing like the chapters. But I do have to take a creative writing course next year for my last year of university. If I want to graduate, I need to take that class. And it's just like, I love the professor, but he's like, you're going to have, basically the class is you write, you give it to a classmate, they read it, they give you feedback, and then you keep working, which is it's so intimidating. The thought of like, I don't even know any of them. I would be fine with my professor. I would be fine with my friends. But when it's like someone you don't know at all, it's just like, here's a piece of my brain. Now, please don't destroy it.
Oh, it's so harsh, but it's like from their perspective, it's not personal. And like, that's where there's so much disconnect too. And it's like, it's a really, really difficult thing to do. And I have so much respect for anybody that has to go through that like critique workshop aspect of writing, because it's so valuable, but it's so painful.
Yeah.
It's like, your worth as an individual is not tied into the words that you create. And like, I read something, I think it was actually today, where it was just like, the act of writing is basically trying to honor this story's desire to be told, right? So it's like, it's not about you as a person, it's not about you as a writer. You are literally just trying to like get a story told because somebody else in your brain is telling you to do so. And it's like, so yeah, if you can like disconnect in any way, do it.
I will definitely try that, because I do look forward to the class, I really enjoy writing. It's just like the thought of having that writing out there is, but it's good to get out of your comfort zone. And so I'm sure these will be very helpful tips.
Yeah.
Now this last question is also something I'm very curious about. Do you have any updates to share on new books that you have coming out? I know that you have your YA debut in August, which it can't get here soon enough. August is my birthday month, is going to be amazing. I'm so very excited for it. And
Are you a
I've also
Leo?
seen, no, I'm a Virgo.
Oh, incredible. Thanks, girl.
But I've also seen on your Instagram stories that you've posted about your sapphic romance,
Yeah.
which I'm also very excited about.
When does this like video post? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I don't know if Cameron
You know
can
what?
answer that.
Whatever. I'm gonna go for it anyways. Like, I feel very connected to you. No, I had the opportunity to write a sapphic rom-com, and I feel like this is probably out of my 3 books that I've published, and then Tilly and Technicolor, which is my YA debut, which is so fun. It comes out August 15th. I love it. I would die for those characters. But I think that if I were to pick any book that like exemplifies a rom-com, it would be Late Bloomer, my April 2024 sapphic release.
Oh, that's so exciting.
I am so pumped, dude. Like, you don't even understand. And so yeah, it chronicles so one of our main characters, her name is Opal. She is really just going through it, like people pleaser to her core. She's yeah, that's enough of that, right? She's working as an inflatable ice cream cone, like she is just like at rock bottom, right? And she ends up winning a scratch off lottery ticket. And it's enough money that she can kind of pursue her dreams. So she studied art. And so she wants to pursue her dreams of painting shoes.
That is so creative.
It's so weird, but yeah, so she wants to hand paint textiles, like mainly shoes, some purses, blah blah blah. And so she ends up finding on Facebook Marketplace this flower farm for sale, and she buys it sight unseen. She's like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna be an artist. It's gonna be everything, blah blah blah. And so then she shows up at this flower farm, and Pepper, our other main character, who is just like as prickly as can be, is like, what the fuck are you doing? And so Pepper has been, working on this flower farm for years. Her late grandmother was the owner of it originally. And so Pepper thought that she would inherit the farm. And then there are some issues with the will and everything. And so the two are like, well, we both like kind of staked a claim here. And so they have to live together, and they have to kind of honor and like make this sustainable business out of the flower farm. And they're so opposite. Pepper has autism, like very, very, my girl is so autistic. I love her, would die for her. She's my world. And then Opal, on the other hand, is like, I'm neurodivergent. I'm not sure exactly what, but I'm something. And the two end up teaming together for a competition that would save the farm and either allow Opal to like continue her shoe business, allow Pepper to, continue to like allow this thriving flower farm to move forward. And so, I, as a person that loves like my special interest as an autistic person is flowers.
I have flowers tattooed all over me.
Look at you,
all over the place. I have some on the back of my arms. There's a bee with forget-me-nots. I have my birth flower and my parents' birth flower. I have a daisy behind my ear. They're all over the place.
What is your birth flower?
It's what is it called? Is it the gladiotus? For August is poppy, and I've heard that there's also
yes, and they're, oh my God, I am like so obsessed with that. No, so we need to talk like at some point, because so I did so much like research, because I personally am just like obsessed with flowers in the sense that I'm just like, look at flowers, they're so pretty. And like, I love I love growing them. But then I did so much research into like historically what different flowers mean. And like, and so I tried to really incorporate that into the book too, like different periods and stuff. And so, it was, I mean, it's a project that I'm so incredibly like excited and proud of. And so, yeah, I'm just really excited for everybody to kind of meet my girls and like see Opal and Pepper being like incredibly messy, but
it sounds absolutely amazing. It's just the vibes will be absolutely perfect. I can just, it's like there's forced proximity, enemies to lovers, you know, flowers, you know, a flower farm. How
yeah. And it's like, yeah. And so there's so much like, let's get it out of our system. Let's be like enemies with benefits. Like,
oh gosh, I love that kind of development. You know, it starts.
I'll make sure you get an arc. Don't you worry.
Oh my goodness, I would be honored. I am so excited for that. I can't wait. I'm gonna have a shelf for all of your books, just nice and organized, just a shelf for them.
And then also later next year, I have a second sapphic like YA novel coming out, which is called Cubby Clark is Not in Love, and that's the one I'm drafting right now. But it's supposed to come out fall 2024, and it's like. It's about this band who is just like, goodness. Yeah, I know, right? Like that's all I can say too. Where it's like, so have you read Tilly yet?
No, I haven't gotten the arc yet. I'm just thank you.
Dude, yeah, of course. But it's Oliver, the hero of Tilly and Technicolor. It's his twin sister Cubby, and she is in this band, and her ex-boyfriend has just like fucked her over majorly. He's become like a huge sensation, blah blah blah, and then she gets wrapped up into a love triangle. But who she really loves is her bandmate Darcy, and the two like have to go on tour and all of this stuff. And like I again would die for them. I love them, adore them. Yeah, so
it is so exciting. I love how you always have like the not necessarily the plot, but like I guess the plot, they're always like so different with every book. Like, I mean, the first one about students studying to become dentists, and then you have Lizzie, who's a baker, and then and it's so nice that there's something for everyone. That's and what's also very great, I love like interconnected stories that can be read as standalones, because again, there's something for everyone out there. But you can read them in order, you can read them out of order. It's always so great. They're my favorite thing to read, because I've tried reading series like I can't. I need to take a break in between books. But
it's so hard.
Right, when they're just interconnected standalones, it's easier to like read one after the other because they follow a different story.
Yep. I will say that all of my girls from like the original 3 will make appearances in my YAs and future books in general. Yeah. So
that is so fun.
I know. I have so much fun with it too. I'm like, when I send a draft to my editor, I'm like, please do not cut anything involving previous characters. Like, I'm not open to discussion.
Oh goodness, that is so great. And I love like just like a cameo appearance. That's so great. I guess we have like technically 2 minutes left. So I guess like to close off, just like maybe talk about the dual timeline. I brought this up earlier, but how it went from being, for the +1, from being a dual timeline to just a singular timeline, which is like a sprinkle of their past.
Well, okay, since we only have like limited time left, I first of all want to just thank you for like organizing this, for organizing like, the Fable book club. I am just so thankful. Like, people like you are why anybody reads my books, like I'm just incredibly thankful for your, I guess enthusiasm behind them. And so thank you.
Of course, thank you for agreeing to do this. I'm honored, like I'm a huge fan. I've been a huge fan since you released your first book. So this is a great opportunity for me too.
Yeah, I'll talk to you anytime, like don't even. But yeah, so I guess like the last thing on it, I wrote an entire like half of a book where Indira and Jude are communicating. It's like very much an epistolary romance, how they're communicating, and it's very much a dual timeline too. And my editor and I both came to the conclusion that I just don't have a firm enough grasp on time and how it works to write a dual timeline at that point. But if I can leave a tiny Easter egg here, there is a dual timeline coming down the road. Yeah. And so I'm super excited about that. But I realized that like with how much Indira and Jude had to unpack in their story and experience and everything, they kind of needed to experience it like in the present with each other. And that was a big point of where things weren't working, was like they were so separated, through the dual timeline moments and stuff, where it was just like I needed them to come together more and work together as a team. And so it just made more sense for them. But the future book,
the prom reference in the book was great. Seeing
I have that scene detailed. So I have their entire childhood detailed, and like it's so detailed. And so maybe one day I'll like unleash that on my newsletter or something like that, because I did love writing those moments of them as like, and it in a lot of ways I felt like it was almost a good exercise in like figuring out who they were to each other, where even though not a lot of it didn't make it into the final product, like I knew them so deeply and like intricately as these childhood shitheads, enemies, like and so that made it so fun along the way. But yeah, maybe one day I'll release those. I'll send it to you if you want it. But
oh my goodness, I would love to. I love them so much. I mean, I love all your characters, but I do have to say Indira was one of my favorites. Just like her fiery attitude and just the way that she was so open with her mental health is very like, I idolize her, right? Like I want to be her.
Thank you. Yeah, Indira was open to the world no matter how much it hurt her. And I really adore her so deeply. So I'm so glad you did too.
She is amazing. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time since it's already like 2 minutes past our hour, but thank you a million times for doing this. It was so fun to chat with you. I apologize that it all became, black here.
Oh my God,
it's night now, but thankfully the screen light was enough to at least keep me here.
And your zebra print like carried us through. I love it. Incredible, sensational, no notes.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you again. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. It was a pleasure to have you in the club. It was a pleasure to chat with you. I hope that we can do this again with future releases. I want to make everyone read your future books if I can. I recommend them to like every time I go to the bookstore with a friend and we pass the aisle for like the M's, I'm like, look at this book. This is a really good one.
You know what? You're my guerrilla warfare. I love it. I'm like so thankful. So thank you, Desiree. You're amazing. And thank you, Fable, for like having us and everything. This was awesome.
I'm so glad. I will let you go now. Thank you very much again for all of this. It was so great. And I hope that everyone enjoyed listening to this little interview.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.